Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name's Damian Bazzaio. This video is going to dissect another dynamic encounter. We're going to call this one Zombie Shark and Drow Escape. This encounter is from Deep World Absconders, a brand new game we just started, and actually we started filming it. But this was our first official session. The group has been kidnapped by Dark Elf slavers, and they are in a big magical net, basically. We had a little prequel where they kind of got kidnapped by them. It was kind of like a practice session, but this is our first official session of this game. This is our first official encounter. They start this encounter it's basically a net that has a magical spell cast on it that makes it, like, if you push too hard, it zaps you back, and it kind of makes it float. So they're kind of just pulling them along because they're the troublemakers of the group. They're basically in these underdark tunnels. So even if the group's like kind of trying to figure out how to escape this net as they're waking up and doing expedition and starting the game off, they're trying to figure out how they're gonna get out of this thing. But then they're like, well, where are we gonna go? There's no they're just tunnels. So even if we escape this net, there's all these dark elves around us. We really have nowhere to escape to. They're just going to, So as we're playing, one of the characters has tremor sense, and it only goes, so far tactically, but, for the sake of the game, I said there's a cliff coming up where there's like a bridge, there's not a physical bridge, or some kind of magical bridge or something coming across, and it's coming up soon. So basically the wizard determines that this net is magical, and it needs to be dispelled before they can even get out of this at all. And so there's this halfling in the net with them. There's a halfling and an orc with them that are kind of all got lumped in with them in this thing just for role playing, just for the fun of it. But this halfling he's like, well, I got something special in my toe. One of my toes is fake. Pull it off. It's actually an anti-magic field. It'll like a burst, like kind of like an EMP pulse. It'll just burst 30 feet, and all magic in that area will cease for a very short time. He just tells them that. And as they're talking, the dark elves like be quiet, whatever, and they put them under a spell again, so they fall asleep. So when they wake up again, they hear water rushing, and they're coming right up to this bridge that they had kind of foreseen earlier. So they're at the top of this bridge, and they kind of know that the halfling has this thing he can do. But as I do con saves to come out of the spell they used to put them up sleep, the halfling fails. So the halfling doesn't wake up. But the party knows that he said he had something in his toe. So I'll show you how I set this up and how. So basically what we're doing is they're going to come out on this bridge. They're going to hit this anti-magic pulse. The bridge is going to explode, disappear. The magical part of the net's going to disappear, but the net itself is going to still bring them down into the water. So it has this 60 feet of falling, which I know Xanatar says you fall instantly, but I prefer the older rules where you fall your speed during your turn. You only can fall your speed, which, doesn't sound, it seems like wouldn't work mechanically, but it does, because as you're falling, you can do things in the air as you're falling. If you just fall instantly, boom, you die, and that may be raw now, but that's not really fun. Whereas if you're falling and you can do, but anyway. So basically, I'm going to draw this setup. I'm going to start with this map right here. This is the basic graph paper map that I kind of just doodled and as I thought of this encounter. Because this is my first actually planned encounter that I've run live since, March for, obvious reasons. So I really wanted to make it count, and this is the beginning of this game that we're filming, so I really wanted to make it be a kind of an epic combat, a crazy, wild, choice-based combat, you know what I mean? And very scary and very, like, whoa, by the seat of their pants, Basically what I did, I took this map, and you can see I have, like, the river drawn, I have a couple of different little avenues, and I kind of had in my mind for different things, and so then I have to transpose that into the real world. This is basically some tiles right here. You can see the tiles. It's like, I think I stacked like 4 or 5 in a row, and I just put this bridge across, and I use a water tile. Just to, this is just to physically represent the bridge in their minds. You'll see in the encounter that I put they're in this like tinfoil. They're basically in tinfoil. That's the net that they're in. Is basically this tinfoil. But anyway, so I have this bridge. I have this setup. This is the bridge setup that I'm going to do on my map. And so obviously it's a less than a half an inch, but in their mind it's enough to do by the descriptions that's a physical fall. You know what I mean? Even though it's obviously it's just enough 3 dimensions to get the imagination going. And then this is just my battle grid, and this is an end roll. If you see my end roll video, it's like it's basically a blank newspaper that I'm going to draw this rough map on. This is going to be very crude. It's crayon. It's just drawing this with crayon, and as you can see, I'm drawing a whirlpool, and I draw this little ledge here, and then I'm purposely leaving myself space in the south here because I know that there's a special cliff here. I'm drawing a little cave over here that I'm gonna have a face spider in. This is pretty much my finished product right here. It's not much, I'm just kind of getting this ready ahead of time, so when the players see it, this is what they're gonna be able to see with their eyes, and I kind of know what else is gonna be there based on my little graph paper one's going to tell me what I know what else is, and my brain that I've gone through this encounter. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of different options going on in this encounter, which you'll see as we go. It's basically going to be 3-dimensional because they're falling, and there's going to be this rushing water, and they're in this tunnel, and then this is a whirlpool that's going to be spinning really fast if they make it that far. And there's actually I have a contingency where if they don't swim against the whirlpool, they're going to get sucked into it down to a chamber below. which I kind of started. I just draw kind of clues to it, so I know spacing where they're going to be. But I don't draw anything more to that because they're not going to be able to see what's down there. That's a whole other part of the encounter that actually didn't come into fruition. But it just, there's a lot of avenues and a lot of things going on in this encounter as you're soon to see. So this is the final map with no minis on it, and then we'll go switch over to what they're going to see when they actually start. So basically now they're approaching the bridge, this magical bridge. So they're kind of figuring out what we're going to do, and the magic user's like, she detects magic, so she knows kind of where all the magic is, and like that because she was studying the net and stuff. So she sees where the little halfling, one of his toes is like this little piece of magic. So she goes and she grabs it. As they get across the bridge, she pops it, and the magic pulse goes, and I literally just take that little tile and I just dump it. Like we're just dumping them, and they're falling. That's their symbol that they're falling through the air, 60 feet down to the water. And then we do some rolls, and we do some they do some scrambling. One of them rips the net open to try to get out, and the other one follows that one. Our mage, because they're gonna take they know they've gotten 30 feet. They're gonna hit 30. They're gonna take I do 6 feet of falling damage for 10 feet. So with half for water, so it's still they're like third level characters. So the mage is like, can I Misty Step out of here? I don't want to take this at all. So she just Misty Steps and lands in the water without taking any damage. The rest of them fall. 2 of the Dark Elves fall with them, and they're just kind of like scrambling. The halfling's there with them, he's still unconscious. There's an orc with them who kind of wakes up, and he's just kind of like, what, because the gnome had punching him for a distraction. One of our gnome barbarian was punching the orc to cause a distraction as the wizard was doing that. So like the orc's just like, what? Doesn't have a clue what's going on, and then just they're all in the water now, and they just kind of randomly, we kind of like sort them out where they actually land. It's kind of random as they fall, but then as we role play and they maneuver and they do stuff, we kind of manipulate where they actually physically land. And then the ones in the front, so this is bad enough. They're falling down. They think they've escaped. There's 2 dark elves. There's more dark elves up on the top that are going to come. They're like, they're kind of afraid. They're like, oh, get down there and stop them. But like, we don't want to go down there. What about that? And they're like, you get down there anyway. So like, well, what's down there now? Wait. So then the mage and a couple of them that are in the net, our ranger and stuff, they roll perception checks, and they suddenly see on the other side, as the current's going, a massive zombie shark. So now they're getting washed towards a zombie shark away from their dark elf captors, so they're kind of in between. They're in this 3-dimensional, because the water could be 20 feet deep and moving. So there's all this stuff going on with the shark, and then they start to engage with the shark and the dark elves. They don't, it's kind of a mismatch, and the mage is just like, see you later, and she Misty Steps again up into this little cave that I had drawn, just because like I kind of described, there's a cave here, there's a couple caves down at the bottom going left and right, and there's a blue glow coming from the one in the south here. There's a blue glow coming from that cave, which is kind of eerie, so there's all these, there's a lot of factors going on right now in this combat. Like I said, it's my first combat I've done live in a while, so I wanted it to be epic. They're scrambling, doing their fight. So the mage goes up there. She suddenly just gets the sense that there's all kinds of webs behind her. There's webs, and there's like these little like eggs. They like glowing little purple eggs, and there's some kind of metal glinting there. So there's definitely metal in here, and maybe some kind of treasure. But there's also a lot of webs, and there's signs of spider sacks, but there's no sign of a spider at all. That's because it's a phase spider, and he's there. He's right above her head, ready to get her, but he's phased. And he just, as she pops up there, he just kind of notices her. And so then the combat continues. They kind of fight. Everyone kind of moves down the water. 2 more dark elves show up. One of them's a cleric. So this cleric has a snake whip that she can hit 40 feet, or 15 feet. So he's like, the snake's like going through the water and attacking them and choking them. And it's just this crazy combat with these 4 dark elves. Basically, the shark was going to, I had those 2 NPCs. I was going to basically have the shark eat one of them, have them be the first one, just to show the power of the shark. I didn't even roll any dice. I was just like, but it happened to be that the dark elf was the one that ended up right in the shark's lane. So the shark came over and just mangled that dark elf, just mangled him. And they're all just like, oh crap, this thing was strong. The thing got a hold of them. They was going to bite them and hurt them. So it was slow, but it was, definitely a huge thing taking up the tunnel. And it was a powerful thing to fight. And they were just like, oh my God. And they can't really climb up the cliff. They can climb up the cliff slowly. There's this way at the end, there's a little bit of a steps there. Other than that, they're kind of stuck in this tunnel, and they got to swim towards that whirlpool in order to get out of the pool. So it's everything they do, every choice they make is rough. So at some point, they get the shark to move around, and they can attack them, and then, so the mage jumps into the water and swims a little bit away, just to get away and use magic. So, but luckily for her, her initiative was before the spider, because as she did that, 2 turns later was the spider's turn, and the spider just appears in the cave up there, this big, massive spider that just, I got this really cool thing from, I don't even know where I bought it. I think it was Target or something. I just thought it was really cool. She was just like, oh my God, like that face spider. She's like, that's a face spider. Oh my God, that's higher level than I am. I'm like, well, you went into his home. He's not. He's just there. He's just chilling there. So the spider just kind of chilled there for a while, kind of took the thing in. So they're fighting, and as they're fighting and moving down, the Dark Elves are, they're kind of just this is a tough fight. There's four players, and then the Ranger has a companion, but the companion is behind because they got kidnapped and brought through a portal, so their companion's kind of catching up. So halfway through this battle, the snake companion will appear and help fight, but at first it's rough. It's 4-on-4 for Dark Elves, and then there's the zombie shark, and then there's a face spider in the mix, and they're just like, oh my god, like what the hell, So they end up saving the halfling who's unconscious, and they did really good job of staying alive and working together. So they get down, and some of them, the mage and her bat, she has a bat familiar, so she flies down and she flies him into this the bluish glow cavern. In that cavern is a wraith who just screams at the bat, and I make the mage roll a fear save because she can see through the bat, but she passes her fear save, so she's fine. So now in the cave is this wraith with a glow. It's like an old body of, they don't know, they can't really tell the skeleton from the distance, but they think it's an elf. It turns out to be a sea elf. But it has this necklace with a blue gem on it, and the wraith is kind of coming out of the gem and just screaming full on, Ghostbuster style. And so the mage's like, whoa, what the hell, As she does some studies with the shark, she realizes that the shark is artificially animated. There's some kind of arcane connection between the shark, the zombie shark, and this wraith up in the cave. So they start to realize that and stuff, and our grung monk and our ranger, mole man ranger, are still fighting the Dark Elves, while the gnome barbarian and the half Dark Elf evoker are kind of dealing with this wraith, and she's like, oh, we gotta. So she ends up casting magic missile through her bat at the gem, and it hurts the wraith. The wraith hurts, and the shark kind of jitters, and they all get the symbol like, oh my god, this, so we can, because every time they kill the shark, it has undead fortitude, so it just gets one hit point, it pops back up. They do eventually end up taking it down, but it passes its save and pops back up, and it didn't matter anyway because this thing was gonna pop back up anyway every time, because the gem. The wraith was actually, the sea elf was an old necromancer who had died here, who had fled the Dark Elves himself, trying to find his girlfriend or whatever. It was a whole big thing. But anyway, he died here, but he left the shark to protect this area from the Dark Elves because he wanted someone to read his journal to help him find his long-lost love or whatever. So the barbarian, the barbarian, she finally tells, the barbarian's going to go in there with his spears, and the mage is like, destroy the gem, hit the gem, not the wraith, because she has to shoot the wraith, and it just goes through the wraith and doesn't have any effect, because it's not magical. He just grabbed spears from one of the Dark Elves. They had no weapons, so he just grabbed some spears from one of the Dark Elves they killed. And then they finally went in, and he grabbed the spears that he threw that didn't work, and he jammed them into the gem and did a lot of damage. And that basically made the gem explode. I made this whole cavern explode. I just kind of made my dice be like boulders. The boulders just came and destroyed the zombie shark. And because the wraith was gone, the gem was destroyed, the wraith disappeared, the body was still there, and the rubble kind of hit the ground, hit the area. But the shark did not come back up. And there was a couple Dark Elves, kind of one of our characters that put darkness on. That's what that black thing is. The monk, the shadow monk, can cast darkness. So that's what they're kind of stuck in the darkness, and the Dark Elves can't see in the darkness, the magical darkness, but our mole man has tremor sense, and the grung himself has 5 feet of blind sense, so he can sense them within 5 feet. So they were in the darkness just wrecking the rest of these Dark Elves. And then some other things happened, and at some point the spider just kind of backed up and just kind of didn't want any part of it. It was just kind of protecting its babies, so they just kind of left the spider alone, and the spider left them alone, which then they just decided to long rest, and that didn't work out so well because the spider had all 8 hours to web them up. Basically, that was the next session, and that was the next encounter, which we'll do a video on that encounter. But yeah, this was just a live encounter it was basically on 2 dimensions, but it was a way to make it almost 3-dimensional. The way you just kind of, even though I just drawing it with crayon, there's a way to describe and a way to draw things that make it seem 3-dimensional. And they might have even gotten swept up into the whirlpool and sucked down into the bottom. That just didn't happen that way. But it definitely could have happened that way. Like I said, there was so much, as you can see from the graph paper, there was a lot of options here. And I just kind of dropped them into the water, randomly dropped so many Dark Elves in the water with them. And I had the zombie shark and the wraith kind of combo. And the spider may or not ever have come into play. Or might have, if they'd have attacked the spider, now they would have had 3 combatants. Kind of like the Battle of 5 Armies here. We got the Dark Elves, we got the party, we got the shark, we got the wraith, and then we got the spider. And it was just like, they're just like, as an opening salvo to this game, it was just, they were just like, oh my god, that was wild. And then they had to long rest after that. And like I said, the spider ambushed them, and that was another fun encounter that we had. So yeah, that was just another example of a dynamic encounter. This is a more of a live version. I've been doing a lot of Roll20 lately because that's just what we've been playing. But we live in a county where we're pretty safe here now, so we've been starting to play with very limited people and me filming it. So hopefully do some more live things and try to do more. I'm gonna try to do some more videos where I show how I draw the maps and how I craft. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that video. We are Omniverse Gamers. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.